Hello everyone, a big update in regards to Hedera HBAR. Want to jump into the DeRec Alliance update and also give you some research on some other findings that I've weeded through that I feel as though is important. Consider sticking around to the end of the outline to learn more about why that's significant. Smash the like if you haven't done so already, and let's jump into the material. So starting things off with Cointelegraph. Here's the announcement, very recent, just roughly a couple days ago. As we see, Hedera IOHK joined that DeRec Alliance as final founding members. If you weren't aware, IOHK is part of Cardano, and it's interesting to see them part of it. But again, it's joining the Decentralized Recovery Alliance. And as we know, we have shared this before. This is the second time I've gone over this. Actually, the third time, if I'm going to be really precise. It's these updates. Will we see more in regards to join this DeRec Alliance? I think so. But more importantly, for your understanding, is this. It's ISO 222 for me. Cardano is also part of ISO 222. And again, I'm going to share some more things about this, why it's significant. But as I jumped into it, I thought, you know what? I bring it to you guys because it's understanding that when you see things posted here, about, for example, how Cardano and Hedera will serve the Technical Oversight Committee, I think that's a win. You know, whether you're a fan of Cardano or not, you know, I'm into Cardano. I've been holding it since last bull run. And a lot of times people get impatient when it comes to Cardano, but understand that Cardano is a quality project. So it's a win. You don't hear tribalism here. It's different scientists, if you will, whether it's Dr. Lehman Baird recognizing, you know, key players from Cardano, whether he has a relationship with people like Charles Hoskinson or not. I am not complaining at all when it comes to getting towards the common ground of mass adoption. How so? Again, like it says, helping shape policies and standards to facilitate crypto recovery and simplify user experience. Here's a quote from Dr. Lehman Baird. He goes on to mention, it's great to see the industry coming together to address this critical need for a safety net. How so? Again, back to the whole thing about the whole point of the DeRec Alliance, because they aim to address complexities of safeguarding digital assets and reduce users' overwhelming experience, of course, in managing security. And again, joining the initiative, Hedera is reinforcing its long-standing commitment, of course, in digital asset security. How so? The point is understanding that you have to have trust, and you also have to have industry collaboration. How so? Well, when you see that the alliance in itself has key fundamental members that include other organizations that include the DLT Science Foundation, Oasis Protocol, and also some of these other ones, you got to understand that Dr. Lehman Baird put a lot of significance on the importance of the collaboration. And how so? He goes on to mention that it's vital to come together to establish a single standard. And again, when I show you this screenshot here in a bit, it will all make more sense because, again, for me, it's ISO 222. Because ISO 222 is a standard, right? So while that's a messaging standard, back to this quotation of, without a single standard approach, everyone might create their own method for helpers to hold pieces of your secret. However, if there are thousands incompatible standards, it could be impossible for you to be my helper or me to be yours if we are on different platforms. All right. Some of you guys are wondering, what about Ripple's involvement with the Alliance? They get into that because back in May, Ripple announced a founding member of the DeRec Alliance, and of course, that brings the whole concept of the XRPL to it. But DeRec Alliance, like we mentioned before, developing an application to make Web3 more accessible through an open source management of secrets like digital assets, private keys, and so on, are all in alignment of this new shift about protecting investors' interest and making it easier to use the platforms, the dApps, and so on, whether it's built on Hedera or some of these other ones, Cardano, the XRPL, so on and so forth. Jumping into this next part, why all this is important, I want to give a shout out to this guy, Marty Ungoff. Sorry, Marty, if I'm pronouncing your last name wrong. I thought this was really, really good what he had to share, because it goes on to mention that there's only a handful of cryptos that adopt the standard that will be plugged into a broader global standard. Again, I think this is in alignment with the DeRec Alliance. That list notably excludes leading cryptos like Bitcoin and Ethereum. But it's the inclusion in the mainstream that provides benefits, everybody, that cannot be ignored. And again, ISO 222 compliance legitimizes those cryptos that adopt it. And that's from an old citation from November 2nd, 2023, but I believe it comes from the NASDAQ. And the reason why I want to share that with you guys, because again, when you see statements like this, it really, really pounds it home, because as we know, which crypto is ISO 222 compliant? What's the coins that are part of the ISO 222 mix? And of course, some of the ones you see here, the obvious ones: XRP, Cardano, Quant. As we know, Quant's the orchestrator of ISO 222 through ISO TC 307, the Quant Network Standard. You see Algorand listed, Stellar, Hedera Hashgraph, IOTA, XTC, and there's some other ones that are kind of on the cusp of being compliant. I think Stronghold obviously should be listed, but you got to keep in mind, even that one's part of the Stellar ecosystem, so it falls under that blanket of Stellar. But that's also worth pointing out in regards to SHX. Going into a little bit more about the significance of this particular update, I want to take you over to this new development, and that is from Nomid. And like it says, from Milan Werks van Rijn, tap and go payments with USDC on Hedera. His hackathon entry for Hedera Hackathon. I'm going to show you a little outline. It's not too big of a deep dive, but this is important, because when we talk about mass adoption, understand is how we get there through peer-to-peer payment solutions. It's not just Ripple XRP, it's not just Stellar XLM, there's other ones part of the mix. And this is why I'm so glad to be diversified, because when the real true bull run hits and I own these particular assets, I can look at it as in, yep, which one gets the bell rung. Some people feel as though all of them will be at once. We don't necessarily know that, but for me personally, I'm okay if it's all at once, or if it's, you know, Hedera or this other project and so on. So if you weren't aware of it, Nomid Pay, like it says, is a peer-to-peer payment solution leveraging Hedera network to provide instant, low-cost, and secure transactions without intermediaries. That's great. But again, what exactly is it? So they have an advertisement. Talks about fast, secure, cheap, and easy to use disintermediated payment system. And it's a write-up. And it dates back to August 21st, not that long ago. But again, understanding the idea behind Nomid is to mimic the existing look and feel of the payment system we currently have. Well, how so? It's providing benefits of Hedera instant settlement, of course, with low fees, and making everything secure. And when I get to the end of this outline, you'll see more examples of, is Hedera the most secure? Is it one of the most secure? What really stands out for Hedera moving forward? A little bit more about this. It's a physical payment terminal, and like you see in the visualization, it has all its infrastructure from A to Z to disintermediate a lot of things by providing, of course, a solution. So it's really cool to see these little terminals, right? How many times have we used, you know, little touchscreen ones, tap things and whatnot? So is this the next era? Could very well be, but we don't see this at mass adoption yet, right? Well, getting more into the outline, understanding that when it comes to some of these distributed ledger technologies, you have to keep in mind that the key to mass adoption will be regulations put into place, but more importantly is, for those that are outside of crypto, blockchain, DLT, is incorporating the technologies into the standard payment systems and not even realizing that it's tied into crypto, blockchain, DLT. It just will be naturally used. People won't even know the use case, because the way they look at it, they're just using it. Proof in the pudding. Look what happened in regards to the transition from cash, checks, going into the era of debit cards and so on back in the 90s, right? A little bit more about what we have. let's take you over to this. This is another recent announcement from Hedera. They reposted this in regards to Generation Infinity. And if you're worried about them, Generation Infinity is a digital media platform facilitating Web3 education and engagement. They have weekly podcasts, interviews, and so on. But this one also caught my eye. Thought I'd bring it to you guys. I thought it was a good update because, like it says, there's no limit to intrinsic motivation. Nurture it, capture it, make it your top priority. Hedera could be the home for consumer apps. It's not saying it could be one of the ones. It's saying it could literally be the home. If you don't understand what it all means, or there isn't an easy way to see it, what good is it? Great point. You know, it's kind of like having, you know, like the concept, like we always talk about, win a Lambo. But in reality, if you just have a Lambo that's parked in a garage, or how about this, a Ferrari, like in the movie, you know, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Cameron just has that awesome Ferrari sitting there, his dad's Ferrari, but it's not actually ever used, and it's never performing and so on. It just sits there and it collects dust. We want to see the utility put into motion. We want to see this game changer technology be used at the next level for mass adoption. Is this a great example? I think it is. Check this out. Thought I'd get into it. I already reviewed it, but it's the presented material in partnership with Hashgraph app. It's a builder showcase, and this was really well put together because you're going to see some great examples of how we get to some of these goals of mass adoption. And then after this, I'll give you a Smoke Dog citation with his research, blast from the past, and tie this all in. Here we go.
The thing is, what I really like about Hedera, and you know, that's the reason why I came into Hedera, is that, you know, it is actually possible to make real-world applications, to have something that we're used to already as consumers, to make the barrier very, very low. And I thought, okay, I'm going to build this from A to Z. So I'm going to create this terminal. This is a physical terminal. I want to have the user to tap, and I want the vendor to have their instant payments. Between the approval of the transaction and the final payment, it's like 3 seconds, right? It's 1/5 of a cent. You know, you can understand how attractive that is. It's pegged to the dollar. I don't necessarily want people to worry about what is HBAR, what is crypto, what is Web3, what is a wallet, and so on. I just want them to use it. So the user never has to know about HBAR. I kind of built a deep-in perspective in it, because instead of, so think of Nomid, they kind of get the fee, but then also the person who owns the terminal could get a fee. The vendors, you know, I'll just sell those devices, like, hey, you can use it for free. You know, it's just like 0.1% of fee that I get every time you make a transaction. People see it and think, oh, okay, now it makes sense. Now I know how I can use it, how I can apply blockchain, and why Hedera makes sense in every single way. I mean, there's so many aspects that I've used in this integration that I couldn't do otherwise on any other chain. The tag makes sense, really. I mean, if you start looking outwards, it's like, yeah, but no, I mean, this makes sense. Still, there is a limit to intrinsic motivation, and you know, and that will, I think, generally be the message to, you know, leadership: nurture it, capture it, you know, make it your top priority, because those are the people, you know, sitting right here that will go beyond, far and beyond. To build, to innovate, you know, put Hedera on the map, and you know, capture that.
It's our new home base for inscribing content on Hedera. It's really focused on that effortless storage and retrieval of on-graph files, being able to use recursion, not just for assets stored on Hedera, but assets stored on other networks, like, for example, ordinals or IPFS. So you can load in things that have already been written on other blockchains as well as Hedera. So Hashnell's Wallet Connect is a brand new library that's built on top of the original Hedera Wallet Connect. It's not necessarily targeted to the seasoned app developer in Hedera, but more to those indie game developers who want nothing to do with crypto, but maybe they see the appeal to it. but they don't want to learn how to do all this stuff. I think the part that everyone is mostly excited about is the gaming aspect. You own the entirety of the game. When you go and mint it, that means you have access to all of the HTML, and that's stored in your hash pack. There's no server that needs to be run, and that's the difference between a lot of these other games where there's still that element of centralization where the code requires somebody to actively pay for a server. And we know that that's a thing that's going to happen with a lot of Web3 games where at some point, the game's not going to work out. The tokenomics aren't going to make sense, and the servers are going to go down and you won't be able to play it anymore. Every aspect of this game is fully on the Hashgraph. Hedera could be the home for consumer apps. We're seeing these crazy fundraising around this infrastructure being built to replicate L2 wheels. I don't get it. What I would love to see is us redirecting that kind of funding towards actual consumer apps. But we don't need smart contracts on Hedera. And that increases the pool of what people can build by 100x, 1000x, 10,000x. It's just humongous, the potential that we have here, just because the technology is a little bit easier to get your hand around, and that opens doors. And I think that we should appreciate that.
If you don't really understand what it all means, or there isn't an easy way to see it, what good is it? It's actually pretty straightforward to calculate revenue on Hedera, which is a great aspect of the network. Every transaction submitted to the network has fees associated to it. So the fees are split into different categories, right? Some of them go to, on the deposit side, some of them go to the node that processes the fees, the consensus node. Some of it goes to the staking account. Some of them go to the treasury account for Hedera. The fees are coming from different types of transactions, right? Some are easier to process, some are harder to process. Some are less expensive, some are more expensive. And so all of those transactions then are packaged under services. There's the token service, the smart contract service, the consensus service, and then some other services. So what we really tried to do was give people a look for the first time at how much revenue the network generates. We're working on a ton of different things right now for better ways for projects to understand how much revenue they're generating. It would be really cool to see, how many daily active users, weekly active users, monthly active users, different ways to break down TPS. What if all of these different things in much more detail were all brought in together in one dashboard? So Hgraph is in a really unique position with the infrastructure we have to actually build these things and put them into practice. Our vision is really to make this data aspect of Hedera and data access for production purposes as easy, flexible, and affordable as possible. That's really what grounds us. So that's really at the core of everything that we're doing. So we are going to be launching some stuff soon. We're working hard.
All right, welcome back. Really cool to share some of that info with you guys, especially some of these recent developments and updates. The other thing I want to jump into before we wrap things up is this particular thing that was posted from Smoke a while back. Let's jump into this. Great material from Smoke. Always, support this brother. He does a great job with his outlines. He could be followed over at SMQKEDQG. So if you weren't aware about some of these things, it's understanding the connections, right? And this is why I wanted to bring this to you guys. So what Smoke has here, in my opinion, just absolutely solidifies why I am into Hedera. And maybe you feel the same way, or maybe you're new to some of this stuff, but the whole thing of the HBAR strong governance for huge tech firms plus household names. I mean, if I was just coming into Hedera and I learned some of these new things, I would be so impressed with, again, the Hedera Governing Council, because it's probably the most impressive one out there. Jumping into what he's talking about, let's get into this for just a brief moment, because it does get into the weeds about this. So if you weren't aware of it, blockchain versus Hashgraph. I mean, the examples that Dr. Lehman Baird has talked about in the past, with blockchain, it's designed to be slow as a secure measure. Proof of work puzzle adjusted to keep the system at a specific speed as time is needed to determine which block or transactions can add to the chain. Again, taking things to the next level. as we know that Hedera isn't a blockchain, right? It is a Hashgraph consensus algorithm. It's called literally the Gossip Protocol. And again, I highly encourage a lot of you guys to take a look into Dr. Lehman-Bear's, lectures about it. But when we talk about Hedera being like the greenest of greens and also algo and stuff like that, it's understanding that you have a method that doesn't require heavy electricity usage, and again, it has a lot of incentives to build on the platform from even that perspective. Again, look at Hashgraph, combining the Gossip Protocol with virtual voting algorithm effectively, or efficiently, I should say, to use the whole concept of the achievement of network consensus on, of course, transactions. And more importantly, like it says, asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerance, highest level security for distributed networks. Some people feel as though it's one that is the highest. Could very well be the highest, but definitely at least ranks up there. In my book, it ranks up there probably in the top 5. So I'm not complaining about that. And again, pound it home about does not require heavy electricity usage. I mean, that's game changer if we're talking about entering to the next level of going from Web 2.5 to Web 3, right? So definitely wanted to share that course from Smoke. A little bit more about this. Hedera's strong governance, technical controls, no forks, ensures simultaneous software upgrade, and again, legal controls, patent and IP protections, no license required to use the network, and open code review. So again, I really appreciate some of the things that he shares. The other one I wanted to jump into was this actually before we wrap it up, and what you'll see here on the visualization is also very, very good stuff, because when you look into some of these key things, is understanding that when you jump down to here, it's all about the end users. Whether it's a DeRec Alliance and so on, it's the tokenization of some of these particular assets. What am I talking about? Well, again, understanding when we talk about the tokenization of real estate, health, healthcare data in itself, right? The medical data, that data is actually worth the most. But combine that with real estate, that's a big deal. And we understand that it's not just going to be Ripple XRP and not just going to be Stellar XLM when it comes to cross-border payments in the financial sector. You can have, for example, Hedera part of that mix. But again, look at that blanket of third-party applications. So when we see the examples about those dApps and what they're building on Hedera, smart contracts and so on, I think that's a huge deal and definitely worth pointing out, because it's reaching consensus and providing, of course, a different solution through the Hashgraph consensus algorithm, bringing it all together, the Hedera mainnet and, of course, those mirror nodes. So again, understand the bigger picture, what Hedera brings to the table. For me, I know where it's at. Hopefully you guys do as well, and very glad to bring you guys this particular update. If you could do me a favor, if you listen to the outline, let me know. And I would like to hear from you. Simply do me a favor and type in this into the comments, and I will know that you listened to the outline. And that is the word gossip. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is the particular update in regards to Hedera. If you like the content, share it with others on X, YouTube, and other particular platforms. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.
If managing your crypto feels like solving a puzzle, it's time to switch to Decent Wallet. Say goodbye to complicated setups and hello to Decent Wallet, the hassle-free solution to your digital currency needs. With just a few taps, you can manage, track, and secure your crypto with unmatched ease. And here's the best part. Grab your Decent Wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure.